What's up YouTube? My name is Australian and I'm bringing you another Legends of Runeterra how to play tutorial. This time we're going to cover a popular deck that's currently dominating the meta, Pirate Aggro. If you've been seeing a lot of Pirate Aggro in ladder, put a comment down below with what kind of decks counter Pirate Aggro. So this deck is broken down into three types of cards: cheap units, units that have some sort of effect that deals damage directly to Nexus, and spells that deal damage to Nexus. How you want to play this deck is you want to first mulligan for cheap units such as Legion Rearguard, Precious Pet, Jagged Butcher, and Mirai Warden. You don't need to keep Twisted Fate, and only consider keeping Misfortune if the other three cards are 1-drops. On turn 1, you generally need to pick between Legion Rearguard and Precious Pet. The decision comes down to if you have the attack token and what kind of deck they're running. If you think there's a chance they have a 1-drop as well, then drop Precious Pet because it has Fearsome and they won't be able to block your Precious Pet. Otherwise, if they don't have a unit, then drop your Legion Rearguard because you can get 1 extra damage in. Jagged Butcher also has the Plunder effect, but you don't actually always want to go for the Plunder effect. If you don't have any other units to play on turn 1, just drop the Jagged Butcher even if you're not going to get the Plunder effect. Even later on in the game, drop the Jagged Butcher if you have no other cards to play. Don't hold on to that Plunder effect. Zap Sprayfin is a late game card that helps you draw your Make It Rain or Noxian Fervor. Keep in mind that this deck list is only playing 1 copy of Make It Rain, so you can pretty reliably know that you have a 75% chance of drawing Noxian Fervor. The other thing about Zap Sprayfin is that it's elusive, so the enemy needs to try to remove Zap Sprayfin because it does 2 damage every single turn that you get to attack. Speaking of Noxian Fervor, use that card wisely. You can use a unit to block an enemy attacker that has lifesteal and use Noxian Fervor on your own unit to deny the enemy lifesteal. You can also use it to deny progressions to level up champions that rely on strike. We also have Eye of Nakakoboros, which can be used to summon a 2/2 at burst speed and also draws 2. If you have the attack token, you can get an additional unit without giving up initiative. Save Riptide Sermon for later on in the game when they start playing their bigger units, and you can use Riptide Sermon to remove a big unit as well as deal 2 damage to the Nexus. Lastly, I want to cover the champions. You don't need to try to level up Misfortune or Twisted Fate. Use Misfortune to deal 1 damage to the enemy Nexus, as well as since a lot of units early on in the game have 1 health, you can use Misfortune to either get value trades or deny the opportunity for the enemies to block. When you play Twisted Fate, 90% of the time you want to either use red card or yellow card. Use red card if the opponent has a lot of 1 health units and you can use it to wipe out 2 or more units. Use the yellow card if you're attacking and you can use it to stun their strongest defender, or you could use it defensively to prevent the enemy from attacking with their strongest unit. You can find the deck list in the description below. Next, let's take a look at how the pros play this deck. One quick thing before that, if you enjoy my videos and want to see more from me, then please hit that like button and subscribe. It would really help me out. Anyways, let's get into how the pros play. I want to use this game to talk about how to effectively mulligan. So if we take a look at the cards, pre-mulligan, we have a Noxian Fervor, Legion Saboteur, Zap Sprayfin, and Eye of Nakakoboros. So we only have 1-drop here. We don't have a 2-drop. We do have a 3-mana spell, but that's not really a 3-drop. So what we want to do is we essentially want to keep the Legion Saboteur. Even though it's not the best 1-drop, you still want to keep it just in case you don't mulligan for any other 1-drops, and then we want to get rid of the other 3 cards. So let's take a look at what he does here.
I want to see some solid play from the Heimer player against this Pirate Aggro deck, especially like you mentioned with this hand. This is not a great hand for aggro. Usually you want your units in the beginning, right? You want to start off with the tempo and finish off with the spells, and there's no 2-drop, there's no 3-drop.
Well, we haven't seen the
Mulligan
Mulligan
you want later. Oh, okay, he didn't even click replace. All right, thank God.
Right.
All right, let's see what we get now. All right, that's
okay.
much better.
Yeah, that's a much better hand.
That's much better.
So let's take a look at essentially now what we got. We got, I think, 2 Legion Saboteurs. We don't have a 2-drop, but we do have a 3-drop now. So this hand is getting much better, and there's also the potential chance that the next card that we draw could be a 2-drop or a 1-drop.
3-unit opening. I was gonna say Atumu has to play a 1-drop here and doesn't get to play a nice 6 mana spell on turn 3, but it's not the case because he's playing Forge Chief, which gets him a spell mana on.
Yeah, and I will say,
So now we have 2 1-drops on turn 2, which he's probably going to drop both after this attack.
just this Piercing Darkness, very good to have early on. And look at that, we have the Vile Feast, and there's another unit in hand for the Cup is Mine that's got Vile Feast written all over it in that Legion Saboteur. So I do think Timu's hand starting to look pretty good here for staving off this early aggression from the aggro deck.
Yeah, this is going to be really where you see how good of an aggro player Cup is Mine is. This will definitely be a game that I feel like most players would lose with this hand versus Atimu's hand. Like, for instance, if we just don't play this 1-drop and we pass, if we hold open the spell mana, it really will show how to maximize value and maximize damage if we can force out some amount of spells from Atimu before getting to lay down these really big bombs like the Misfortune or the...
So turn 3, he has 3 mana. He's probably going to drop Misfortune.
Getting mana for the Noxian Fervor, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we saw it in one of the earlier games with the Twisted Fate red card, with the last Pirate Aggro, play that we saw. If we can get some serious value, like getting rid of this eventual Spiderling token from the Vile Feast, as well as the Financier with the red card, if we're able to get that sort of tempo swing on a turn, I think that's really going to help Cup is Mine come through here. But the issue is, what do we do here? We can float the mana. We don't really have a great open attack. This feels like Misfortune, but at 5 mana, you're starting to worry, okay, is there that Vile Feast Mystic Shot, which is actually what we saw earlier today, and it looks like Cup is Mine not willing to play in this.
So I was wrong, actually. And the reason why he saved his mana instead of playing Misfortune is because the enemy had 5 mana, and so he is essentially scared for the removal of Misfortune immediately upon play.
Something like that.
Yeah, and having this burst speed open attack, that was an amazing pass by Cup is Mine. You kind of just get to make this burst speed attacker open attack, not play into Shock Blast, not play into Production Surge, anything like that, and basically just force your opponent to have these Vile Feast, Mystic Shots, these sort of fast speed removal spells, and then say, okay, buddy, if you're using them now, then there's a chance you can't actually kill my Misfortune later.
Yeah, I like this. And so what this tells me, too, from the aggro player's perspective, is they are kind of playing a little bit of a longer aggro game. I mean, generally, a lot of times, you hear aggro, you think, okay, we're just slamming our face on the board, putting our hand on the board, going face, and hoping we win. But there is some playability to holding back some units and developing them on a later turn to then push for a little bit more damage, maybe on turn 5 or turn 6. And it looks like that's what the Cup is Mine is looking to do. And honestly, we already have 7 more damage burn spell wise in our hand, so this might pay off for Cup is Mine.
Right, and we see this humongous play from Cup is Mine. I would have preferred to go ahead and just slam.
So something that's really good about the Pirate Aggro deck is that it's not like other aggro decks where you have to finish the game by turn 6 or you run out of steam. This deck actually fares pretty well even at turn 8, turn 9. It can still have a good chance of winning. I want to show you a great way of using the gold card for Twisted Fate. Let's take a look at how this player utilizes the gold card to deal 5 additional damage.
Left wide open, and this is a 9 damage swing coming in from his opponent, and this.
So right now he does 9 damage, which is already a lot, right? It leaves the opponent to be at 8 health and the board's wide open.
9 damage is just too much for him to handle, and we're moving really close to the red zone against a burn player. There's nothing that Riro could do but to swallow all 9 damage from coming in from Advocate.
Yes, and he is indeed swallowed.
So playing this one card, generally speaking, isn't the best just because it allows the opponent, it passes the initiative to the other player and allows them to play a unit. But because we know that we have a Twisted Fate in hand, he's going to use it to stun
the damage right now. But of course, look at that. The greed is good with this one. Because he knows he will be able to TF with the gold card, and this is so much damage is going to be coming in. Look at that, 2, 4, total of 14 damage, bringing down the...
Like, that play was just absolutely beautiful. Here we have the opponent dropping a Sivir. Sivir is going to come up with Spell Shield, so it's actually kind of difficult to remove. So let's take a look at how Pitash creatively uses Twist of Fate over multiple turns to remove Sivir.
Better on Kaiser than it is on Sivir.
We're seeing kind of this intentional regression back to a slightly older deck, focused more on that mid-range tempo plan than having those huge over-the-top threats. And I think that's a little bit of a response to these heavier-handed SI decks that are going around. To be able to go back to that powerful Sivir tempo that has traditionally been very good against those.
Yeah, and already getting, speaking of Sivir tempo, already getting it down on turn 4, which is where you want to see it. And we're at 11, so that is a little concerning. I'm not going to...
So right now, when you drop Twisted Fate, all it does is it gets rid of the Spell Shield and it clears the 0-1. But getting rid of the Spell Shield is actually really important because it lets you clear Sivir a turn later.
This is actually going to remove the Spell Shield and an additional blocker. So things are not looking too bad for Pitash here going into what looks like a turn 5 attack. We have the Fervor for 3 more damage, and we have, really crucially here, this is why Zap Sprayfin's played. Anybody not familiar with Pirate Aggro, the only 3-cost spell usually in these decks is Noxian Fervor. So we essentially have a 2-attack elusive plus 2 Noxian Fervors for 8 damage potential total in hand.
We do also often see 1 or 2 Make It Rain in this deck, sometimes as many as 3, so Zap can miss. But what I want to draw attention to is this open attack. Oh, I thought we were going to see the Eye of Nagkuburos open attack here, but Pitash choosing to go for the other spawn line in attempting to remove that Sivir. Going to get a little bit punished by this Sharp Sight, though.
So even though this doesn't actually kill Sivir, it's still super important to note that the only reason we were able to do this is because of that red card.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a big deal. One of the reasons why this card is so good is the tempo, right? You're removing a unit plus adding a unit, so you really start to swing things in your favor. But yeah, this barrier also going to allow Sivir to block and still stay on board next turn to put some additional pressure on Pitash. Because at this point, it's a race. Spids needs to close this out next turn, most likely, if Spids expects to make it to the finals.
Yeah, it's funny, but these burn aggro decks put you in a point where you have to race them, especially when we see these extra card draw in Pitash's hands. There's not much time left for Spids to close this game before they just get burned out.
Yeah, no really good access to heal either on the side of Spids. We have 3 in hand, 3 damage that is, and we have plenty of draw. And actually, you're right, what am I? It looks like there's 2 copies of Make It Rain in Pitash's deck, so we could get a miss there. Although Make It Rain doesn't look so terrible now.
Yeah, that's I'm not even sure that's a miss on this board. That 1 HP Sivir looking like a pretty juicy target. Though we do already have this TF sitting up here, ready to just red card, and if we develop here by Spids, it might be over.
Yeah, this is definitely looking like Pitash's game here. I'm very curious.
And this is an interesting spot that I like to talk about. And from Spid's perspective, I almost want to talk about whether we have to develop or not here, right? Because if we attack for 7 and we put Pitash on 5, are we winning the game? And I think the answer's no.
Oh, yeah.
So
I agree with you.
This is rough, and we're going to...
Yeah, so Spitz is in a really difficult position because by playing this card, they're going to play the Twisted Fate, and so now you're losing the Sivir, you're losing the 2-1. Yeah, so it's not a great position for him.
Get blown out, but I think the play was still correct by Spids, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You can't play around everything sometimes. I think that was a perfect example. It just kind of is what it is.
We're going to take a look and analyze how to use your spells to close out the game via this clip.
Sure.
Oh, Vicurian Bruiser
and
not
the
gonna
Decimate!
That's just about going to wrap it up, I think. What am I? That is...
that's kind of an insult to injure.
So even though that he has Decimate, he didn't play the Decimate because Spids has 9 mana and there is a potential chance for Rite of Negation. So instead, he's just going to play units and try to win. There's many different win conditions. So right now, you can just full attack and you can win. So he's going to force the opponent to play more cards and spend more mana, Once that happens, then he's just going to Nox and Yuna, one of his own blockers. So let's take a look here.
He didn't need it. He's already dead. Stop hitting him.
Just stop already. Stop. How many times in aggro matchups have you said or seen somebody on cast say, "Oh, and the top deck decimate for the win"? Oh man, feels bad.
Yeah, Decimate showing up to do its job, saying, you know, I've got to be here, even if I'm not needed.
Just
We
in
always
spirit.
top deck Decimate on the last turn of the game. That's the important part of playing aggro.
Oh man. Yeah, we're gonna get Concerted Strike, it looks like, to prevent some damage. Not gonna really matter at the end of the day. We have to play the Quicksand.
So Spitz can technically survive this attack, but is completely tapping out to do so.
So in this case,
So this Fervor is going to come down from P-Tash and is going to close out this game. Yep, there's the Shen emote, because this is deterministic.
There you go. And that is going to be Pitash closing things out with a Fervor onto the Legion rear guard, taking it 2-1. Oh.
Yeah, so something to keep in mind here is just that make sure you wait for your opponent to tap out of their mana before you commit your own spells.